Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'll be chairing today's panel. Joining me on the panel are Valerie Werhun and Richard Whitbread. Our assessor today is Abhishek Ratan, and our administrative personnel is Fran Picoto. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 2, 6, and 8 on our docket today. Ms. Picoto, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Assessor, please state your full name.
Abhishek Ratan.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with item number 2 on our agenda. This is file number 24-4057, 1037 Springfield Road. And I'd just like to confirm that this is an appeal of the assessment of property. The assessed value, that is?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Assessor, you may begin with your evidence, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. File number 24-4057, roll number 04003008500, property address 1037 Springfield Road. The 2025 assessed value based on April 1, 2023 is $973,000. The current parcel use is CMBSR. Moving on to page 2, I have the photographs for the subject property. It is between Alberta, Hill Crescent, and Spring Valley Road. Moving on to page 5, I have the income approach that was used to assess the subject property. The subject property has 4,826 square feet area with a table rent of $13.70, which brings the potential rent at $66,116. We applied a vacancy loss of 2%, an expense at 3%, and a shortfall of $6 per square feet, which brings a net operating income at $62,271. We applied an overall cap rate of 6.40, which brings the estimated value for the subject property at $973,000. Moving on to page 4, I have 4 comparables for the subject property with the square feet size of 2,960 to 6,841 square feet, with an actual year built range from 1960 to 1981. All of these are vehicle service garages, and the table rent range from $12.90 to $20.74. The mean for all of my rent comparables come at $15.23 and a median $13.65. Moving on to pages 9 to 11. To 12, I have the income and expense mailer for the subject property, and going forward from pages 13 to the end, I have the photographs for my subject for my comparables. So to conclude, I would ask the board to confirm 2025 assessed value for the subject property at $973,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have questions for the assessor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few. The income valuation on page 5, that's all model driven, I'm assuming?
That is correct, Mr. Smith.
Okay. And for this property and the other ones on our docket today, given workload, I'm assuming you haven't had a chance to visit any of them?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And looking at the rent comparables on your page number 4, and then I guess you have photos and kind of a site map of each of them. These are all located on either major thoroughfares such as Comp 4 or Comp 2, or on through roads that connect to other major thoroughfares, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so Chevrier and Clarence, those would be in the southwest Winnipeg and connected to Pembina and Waverley.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And just going to point out number 4 there, 3331 Portage Avenue. So that's a unit in an automotive strip mall, I believe, correct?
Yes, they have multiple automotive like stores for different things here.
Okay. And then I just wanted to look at the capitalization rate that was used. So the models used 6.4%. Do you know where that comes from on your chart on page number 7?
Yes, so I would say this should fall under our suburban B category of office type 5.25 to 6.75. We don't have it as subcategorized as a different income, like we don't have them as vehicle service garages in our table. So I would say, but still it's an office property, standalone property in a suburban B area kind of. So I would say it falls between 5.25 to 6.75 category.
So it's classifying it, the city is classifying that as office?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I believe those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Whitbread, questions for the assessor?
Yes. So just following up on that question, then I'm a little bit puzzled how you see these as office buildings as opposed to some sort of industrial class. Can you clarify for me, please?
So these properties have mixed kind of usage with them. They have a small office for the administration purposes in the very beginning of the store, and then they have the other like industrial component, I should say, where they can repair the cars. a garage, we should say. So they are like mixed use. But still, since they fall under our category, for the office categories, so I would say it's a suburban B office category. In looking at the cap rate study.
What portion of the establishment would be office versus industrial?
The front entrance where they have the office admin people and the office space.
I understand that. What
Yeah, so-
percentage of the property would that be?
And if
10%,
I would say like
50%?
30 to 40%, 30% should be at least the office space for them, 30 to 40%, and the rest should be the garage.
So if we can, bear with me, please, Madam Chair, I just want to go to the photos. You really don't have any photos of the interior, do you? I only see the two photos. Do you have any photos of the interior of this property?
No, I do not have on my screen.
And so you would suggest, even if it was 30% office, that would warrant putting it in a different class, correct?
Yes, like, that would be my assumption.
And did the model provide this classification, or did you make an adjustment?
No, that's, the model driven.
Okay. No, that's all. I'll leave it there, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread. Ms. Werhan, questions for the assessor?
Well, that was my question, and I'm not quite sure if the assessor answered it because it's still a bit confusing. But I'm not quite sure what to ask different that would get a different answer. So for now, I'm okay then, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have kind of questions in the same line. So, Mr. Assessor, the other parameters used in your model, vacancy, expenses, shortfall, are they all from the commercial vehicle service type
Yes,
class?
yes, they are.
Okay, so you use the parameters from the vehicle service classification in the model, but not the cap rate?
Yeah, the gap rate is also from that study itself, from that analysis itself. So what happens is, as soon as the modelers start working for the valuation purposes, they are going to club all the data for a specific property, for these property type codes. And then the model will generate all the expense rate, cap rates, shortfall, vacancy losses.
Okay, so I heard you talk about, though, that the cap rate was using office caps. So that's not quite, I'm just a little confused.
So this is one of the office properties. That's why I actually told that since this fall under our office category. So I told that the cap rate that was used is between for suburban B's office type.
Okay. Okay, and the rent, that's a model rent, but it falls within your rent comparables is what you're indicating to us. And they're all also vehicle service garages, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I'm just going to take a quick look at them. Okay, I have no additional questions, so thank you very much. Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So 1037 Springfield, I think first thing I'll get everybody to do is flip to my page number 7, which is where it has the aerial map. Well, 2 aerial maps, actually, one further out, one further in, so that we can situate ourselves here. So you can see the red dot in, is everybody there, first of all? Okay.
Yep.
You can see the red dot in the aerial photograph at the top of the page indicating where 1031 Springfield is. So it's to the west of Lagimodiere, north of the Chief Peguis Trail. So moving down, you can see the closer in aerial. And if you follow along Springfield Road there, heading west off of Lagimodiere, you can see that the property dead ends. So of course, the history of this is that Springfield used to run all the way through from Lagimodiere to the west and intersect with, and I'm going to draw a blank at the moment here in my knowledge, but there's two main roads that run north-south in the Kildonans there, and it is eluding me, Raleigh and Gateway. There we go. Sorry, pardon me. So Springfield used to be a major thoroughfare running east to west. Then Chief Peguis was put in, and Springfield was essentially cut off and is now just this little stub of road off of Lagimodiere, as indicated in the aerial there. So what we're looking at is a property that is isolated. You have to be essentially going to the businesses that are out on that road in order to see them. There's very low visibility. If you're heading northbound on Lagimodiere, the Star Building Products site obscures everything on Springfield to the west. And if you're heading south, just the layout of Springfield Road, you can see how it curves down southward. There's again no visibility of the properties on the western part of that roadway at all. So again, if you don't know the business is there, there's no reason to go by it. You can't connect and go through to any other neighborhood, etc. So very low visibility, very low traffic flow, low demand. So this is very different than your typical situation for a vehicle service garage where you're located on St. Mary's or Regent or Henderson, or typically on a major thoroughfare, where the traffic flow is constant and visibility is good. So obviously that has an impact on demand for properties, what a potential tenant would pay, capitalization rates, etc. So that's the background. We can skip forward to my page number 3. First, well, there's a photo on the cover page just to give you an exterior of the property. We'll have a few more of the interior. It has a total of 4,826 square feet, a relatively low land to plan area ratio, so there's not a lot of storage on site or parking. There is indeed reception and office area in the property, but it is of course not an office property, and that is just a portion of the business, right? You come in, sit down, they deal with your car. And I don't really have a breakout of it, but certainly the majority of the property would be the service area. So we're not assigning different rents to the front and the back here, as it's very different from an auto dealership in that way. This is just a very small portion of the property that supports the actual business in the rear of the property. Description of the construction is there for you on page 3. And we can move forward into the photos. So exteriors on page 4, pretty standard. And one of the reception area. And then I think you can see where you go through into the back, just behind the desk there. And then the interior of the unit at the back. So that's the description. We've already talked about the site, and really the site is and location are critical to this particular one. Let's jump forward into the valuation. So to properly value these, of course, we need to look at other vehicle service and repair rents in the marketplace. This is what we've done on my page number 10. Now, they will vary in terms of size, location, age, etc. throughout the city, but they will give you pretty good indicator overall of what an appropriate rental rate for the subject property would be. Incidentally, the rent that they have there is non-arm's length and a gross internal lease as well. So we really can't put any weight on the income and expense that they have provided. So we're looking again at 4,826 square feet. So let's see what the market has to say. If we look at my page 10, one that I will point you to, 2022 lease. This is my comparable number 3 at 2645 Pembina, which is located just south of Bison Drive on the west side of Pembina. Built in 87, similar to the subject, 3-year term beginning in 2022 at a rent of $11.28 per square foot. That is very well located, good visibility, and they're getting a rent there of $11.28. I won't run through too many more here. Similarly, 2479 Pembina, comparable number 7, 5,600 square feet, 2017 lease for 6 years at $10.71 per square foot. What else was I going to point you towards? Number 12, 960 Pembina, 5,700 square feet, 2018 lease at $12.75 per square foot. And you can see the general range here. We're looking from a low end of $7.50 a square foot up to a very high end of $13 per square foot. Now, the $13 per square foot is my comparable number 9. That's at 123 Fort, which is right downtown, 8,930 square feet. That's a Fountain Tire location located just north of Broadway, and is essentially, it's downtown. You can drive down to your office, leave your car, walk to work, come back and get it at the end of the day, and it's downtown. So obviously they're going to pay a premium with regard to rent for that. And that is indeed an arm's length rent that they're paying at that location. So that just gives you a frame of reference with regard to the subject. We have a poor location in terms of traffic flow, demand, visibility, etc. We've given you some photos and maps of a few of the comparables on the following pages, just to give you an indicator. And we have taken into account the age of the structure when we've put our rent on the property, and we have used a rent of $12 per square foot. Now, this might be somewhat high, but it's also informed by the smaller size of the unit as well. We're only looking at, what was it again, 4,800 square feet, which would of course drive a higher rental rate than a property that had a significantly larger space. So we've used $12 per square foot. Let me just confirm some details as we move forward here. The vacancy, the city's used, I believe, 2%, which essentially equates to 1 month of vacancy over a period of 5 years. It doesn't really reflect the market. So we've provided some market stats for you on my page number 16. While vehicle service garages are neither industrial or specifically retail, as they are automotive related, they are more related to retail than they are to industrial, given their location. So typically, again, we're looking at major thoroughfares where these are located, which would make them more in tune with a retail location. So if you look at the bottom of page 16, you can see the vacancy statistics. The Johnson report is stating average strip center retail vacancy at 3.8% for the relevant time, 5-year average of 3.8. Overall retail vacancy at 3.3 with a 5-year average of 4.8%. We've applied 4% in our valuation of the property. We're at the end of our hearing cycle. I imagine each of you has heard extensive discussion of the expense allowance. I will spare us all some time. We have used 5% for the reasons described on my page number 17, and then we refer you to a particular decision at the municipal board, which was on a different category, office, but it was the very first property to go through the process of having the non-recoverable expenses determined. So we have used 5% for all of those reasons as stated in the brief. Our shortfall is the same, and we can move on to capitalization rate. So the city has stated that this would be suburban B. Well, its internal classification at the city is that it is handled by the office department, but it is not, of course, an office building. It is not strictly an industrial building. It's not strictly a retail building, but it bears more characteristics in mind with a retail location, certainly, than any of the others. If you look at all industrial, typically they're in an industrial area. This is not, of course, or these typically are not. So we have looked at the retail category, as we always have, for evaluation of these properties. So the capitalization rates that we show on page number 18, these are all market transactions, and the cap rates are determined from the in-place income and expense as of the sale date. You can see the chart there for you. We have a total of 8 for you, all relatively recent in time frame, and they run from a low end of 6.3% up to a high end of 9.13%. Now, we're not saying a regional shopping center is the same as the subject, we're just giving you background. So if you look at the balance of them, our 3 most recent runs are 6.3%, 8.9%, and 7.17% for well-located retail strip malls on major thoroughfares. So that gives you certainly some background. Now, if we look at the photos and locations of those on the following pages, you can see the type of asset that we're looking at. All certainly properties that would receive interest in the marketplace. Moving on to page 22, you have the commercial brokerage capitalization rate ranges that they supply in their reports as of the relevant time frame. Cushman Wakefield was indicating cap rates of 6.5 to 7.5% for non-anchored retail strip malls as of the valuation date, with Colliers indicating a range of 6.5 to 7.5% for investment grade retail assets. Beyond that, of course, we have the significant shift in interest rate from 0.5% to 4.75% over the preceding year up to the valuation date, a jump of over 4%. This has a direct impact on capitalization rates because of the lift in financing costs that one would have as of the valuation date. Obviously, that has an upward impact on capitalization rates and should also be considered when determining the appropriate cap. So we have a smaller property located in the location that it's in, which has a direct impact on their business in that particular location. So we have taken all of these factors into consideration and used a cap rate of 7.25%. This is summarized on my page 22. And you can see that we arrive at a final market value of $713,000. And I believe the addenda just includes the income and expense And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Rattan, do you have questions for the applicant?
No, I don't have any.
Thank you. Ms. Werhan, questions?
I do not, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes, thanks. Mr. Smith, what would you suggest the percentage of the property is office versus industrial or vehicle service garage?
For the subject property,
Yes,
it would probably be in the 10 to 15% range, having been in it and taken the photos. I'm going back a little bit in time here, but it's not an extensive office area. They have kind of the reception and the seating area for clients, and then your accounting office, and that's really it.
Yeah.
You see the size.
having seen your photograph, it certainly is not 1,200 square feet of the 4,800 suggested by the assessor, is it?
I don't believe, no, it wouldn't be 1,200 square feet, and of course, the assessor hasn't had the opportunity to see it, but
No, but he did use the number 30%.
yeah.
So what you're suggesting is it might be 400 square feet.
That would be closer to accurate, but of course, I don't have measurements for you or anything.
Now I understand. How would you characterize this particular business?
The business itself,
Yeah, you let me take you back to your comparables. You gotta get back to that page. Lots of photos here. Yeah, I see that it's not a super low, is it, or an oil change place?
no auto check, so they really are like a repair garage essentially, and they do checks for vehicles that are getting sold, things of that nature as well, but they do repair your vehicles as well.
So calling it an auto service or an auto repair station would not be a wrong use of the words.
No,
Okay, and I see that your comparables on page 9, the ones you've highlighted, are pretty much all specific auto repair facilities. So there's a comparison there, as you suggest.
that's right.
All right, thanks. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just have a couple of questions, Mr. Smith. It's on your page 18,
Sure.
which is your capitalization rate study.
Mhm.
Did you calculate these cap rates, or where did these cap rates come from?
So we have calculated some of these cap rates with access to data on each of the sales. As happens in our industry, you have to reach out to others and confirm details with regard to income and expense and sale price, and if there were any other influences. So it is a little bit of a blend, but most of them we have calculated, and the others we have spoken with the parties involved in order to confirm the details that we received.
Out of curiosity, when you calculate your cap rates, do you go through the stabilization process and look at several years of data before you and then derive your capitalization rate after that analysis?
So that is more of a multifamily specific step that is taken. We
Okay.
do look at that with regard to other asset classes and see if anything is wildly out of line, but we're not taking individual expense line items and stabilizing.
Okay.
Process is a little bit different. That's more specific to multifamily.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, actually. So you yourself are familiar with all these properties and their sales?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I have no additional questions. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Is there rebuttal evidence?
Sorry, I just want to make one quick point before we're
Sure.
off. The first comparable there, number 1 McPhillip Street.
Yes,
This is the reported capitalization rate by the purchaser of the property in their press release. So I can't specifically confirm the details on that, but again, I'm not comparing a regional shopping center specifically to the subject.
right, a $65 million sale.
Yes, a little bit different.
Yeah, okay. And no rebuttal evidence from either of you?
No.
No,
Okay. Mr. Assessor, would you like to make a summary statement?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
no, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And that will conclude item number 2. Move to item number 6. This is file number 24-3881, property address 1440 Plessis Road. Mr. Assessor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. File number 24-3881. Roll number 040072615550. Property address 1440 Plessis Road. 2025 value based on April 1, 2023 is $2,855,000. Parcel use CMBSR. The effective year built and the actual year built for the subject property is 2019. Moving on to page 2 and on page 2, I have the aerial and the photograph of the subject property. There was no recent sale history. We have 2 income streams for the subject property on page 5 and page 6. The first income stream belongs to the store kiosk. We have 2,271 square feet of kiosk, which with a table rent of $41.96, which brings the potential rent at $95,291. We applied a vacancy loss of 2%, an expense of 3%, and a shortfall at $6 per square feet, which brings the net operating income at $90,310. We applied an overall cap rate of 4.7%, which brings the capitalized value at $1,921,489. We have additional building value, which consists of tanks, canopies, pumps, for $766,000. This brings the total estimated value from this income stream at $2,687,000. Moving on to page 6, I have second income stream for the subject property, which is for vehicle car wash. We have a vehicle car wash of 1,044 square feet with a table rent of $8.19. Which brings the potential rent at $8,550. We applied a vacancy loss of 2%, an expense of 3%, and a shortfall at $6 per square feet, which brings the net operating income at $8,003. We applied an overall cap rate of 4.75%, which brings the estimated value at $168,000. Now moving on to page 7, if we club the income stream values from 1 and 2, that brings our total value of the subject property at $2,855,000. Now moving back to page number 4, I have 2 categories for the rent comparable. The first one is for SKP kiosk, and the second one is for vehicle car wash. So I have 3 rent comparables with 3 different actual year bills ranging between 1994 to 2018, with an area of between 1,000 square feet to 2,330 square feet. We have a mean rent of $46.40 and a median of $43.99. Now moving on to the vehicle car wash comparables, I have 2 comparables whose mean is $11.76 and a median of $11.76. Now, my comparable photographs can be found on pages 13 to the end of my brief. And I've also attached the income and expense mailer provided by the property owners from pages 10 to 12. So to conclude, I would ask the board to maintain 2025 assessment value of $2,855,000 only. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, questions for the assessor?
Yes, just a couple. The rental comparables that you have on page number 4. 705 705 Osborne, 1070 Henderson, 1425 McPhillips. And the two car washes, these would be in well-established neighborhoods essentially, right? They're mature neighborhoods.
Yes, they are in desirable neighborhoods, I should say.
Okay. And this is again model driven.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and the two capitalization rates, so we have 4.7 and 4.75, are these again from the suburban B category or?
So these ones are, they won't be in any of the categories in our chart presented on the brief. These are model driven category, these are model driven cap rates.
So would it be fair to say that, and I'm just going to direct you to page number 8, would it be fair to say that they were as shown and I think I've read this paragraph to all of you before. Would it be fair to say that they're model generated as shown on page number 8 in that second paragraph, where for the 2025 general assessment, cap rates were derived from model generated estimates of net operating income and sale prices that were time adjusted? So
That's
okay, so it's not based on actual transactions of service gas stations and car washes, correct?
yeah.
Okay. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Whitbread, questions for the assessor?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Werhan?
I'm good, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, I just want to ask you a question, and you might have mentioned this and I might have missed it. The additional building value in your store kiosk stream, income stream 1, can you explain that?
So these are the additional building values which consist of tanks, canopies, pump. Yeah, basically tanks, canopies, pumps, and they are based on a cost model using Marshall and Swift software.
And this approach that you've used, using the two income streams, is that a consistent approach for the city to use for these types of properties, these gas station kiosk properties?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I have no additional questions. Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Up front, I would like to make a correction to what I've done here. I realize that I did not include the additional equipment value that the city has, and we will acknowledge that. So that's $766,000. That should have been included as an additional line in my valuation at the bottom there. So that actually takes our value to $2,389,000. Now, I haven't run the numbers on whether it's $766,000, so I will defer to the city's cost estimate in that instance. So I apologize for that oversight, but that actually does make a lot more sense when I'm looking at it in comparison to prior cycle, etc. So
Thank you.
the front of our brief just gives you a view of the gas station from the road. You can see the two buildings and the pumps. So you have your C-store essentially, and the car wash and the tanks visible there. You flip forward to page 3, you can see some background of the subject property. 2025, it's assessed at $2,855,000. In the prior cycle, it was reduced by agreement to $2,145,000. It's built in 2019. The site area is shown there for you, as well as the leasable area. Now, the land plan area ratio is somewhat irrelevant. Most of that is circulation area, of course, with a car wash and service center. So photos just confirm all of those details. The site is shown on page 6 from an aerial, and then the property location is on page 7. So this is, while it is in the Transcona area, it is in a developing section of Transcona. Certainly it is being built up, but it's not the same as being on McPhillips or some of the other comparables that we'll look at in my brief, as well as in the city. So it is coming along, but it is not entirely surrounded by single family homes and apartments, etc. It will get there, but that is where it's at the moment. Let's skip forward to the valuation. So we have a slightly different approach from the city of Winnipeg. Again, there is a text error here, which I apologize for. The property is leased on a triple net basis, as you can see from the income expense in our addenda. To Shell Canada, they pay all of the costs, and they pay $92,000 triple net to the owners on an annual basis. So that is the revenue that will be the revenue going forward. It will not change. It's not going to jump from there to a different amount based on market. That is a rock solid lease. If you buy this property, that's what you're getting. So we are using the actual in-place rent of $92,000. Now, it's not $12 per square foot. That is a text error. It actually comes out to $27.75 per square foot when you take the leasable area into account. We haven't applied vacancy in this valuation. Again, we have a gas station with a very long-term lease going forward. We've elected not to apply vacancy to the subject. That, of course, takes off the shortfall as well. And the expense allowance, we have deferred to the city's 3% in this instance. Now we can skip forward to capitalization rate. I will point out, before we get into my evidence, the city's using 4.7 and 4.75, I think, for the two income streams. And if you look at the city's both the city and the market participants' evidence, you're essentially looking at the low end of multifamily capitalization rates at 4.7, 4.75. Those, frankly, are inappropriate for other categories. You're not going to see anything like that. While we do have a long-term lease with Shell, etc., it is also a gas station, which comes with its own issues, environmental issues, as does the car wash. And the view of that in the marketplace would take into account those particular risks in any purchase. So while it is certainly an asset that is of quality, those factors are taken into account. So it, again, would be viewed more as a retail asset. So we have again provided you the same detail with regard to retail capitalization rates in the city. The low end being that 6.3 up to 9.13, with the typical range being 6.5% to 7.5%, as supported by both Colliers and Cushman Wakefield in their market capitalization rate reports that they put out. I have lowered the cap rate. And again, this is taking into account the fact that it's, you have a good covenant going forward for quite a long period of time. So it would draw a somewhat lower capitalization rate. So that is why I put a cap rate of 5.5% on the subject property in our valuation. So if you look at page 15, this is summarized. You have the 92,000 potential rent, which is actually $27.75 per square foot, not $12. That was meant to be changed. Obviously, we did not apply vacancy. Or shortfall, of course, as they're related, and capping it at 5.5% gives us 1,623,000, to which we added the 766,000 related to the infrastructure, giving us our final value of 2,389,000. That is my evidence. Thank you.
You're muted, Madam Chair.
Sorry, I was having a coughing fit. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Questions, Mr. Rattan?
No, I do not have any.
Thank you. Ms. Werhan, questions?
I think they've all been answered. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. So thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Rattan, would you like to make a summary statement?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that will conclude item number 6. Okay, moving on to the final item on our agenda. This is file number 24-4078, 1100 Templeton Avenue. Before we begin, I believe you have something to say, Mr. Assessor, regarding the burden of proof.
That's correct, ma'am. So I would like to withdraw the non-cooperation and for this subject property. The reason behind that, the withdrawal, is there was some kind of error in our system, because of which we deemed that there was no income and expense mailer sent out to us by the property owner, but it was sent actually. So we would like to withdraw the non-cooperation on this file.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rattan, for that explanation. So then with that, then you may begin with your evidence on the appeal of the assessed value of the property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. File number 24-4078, roll number 05009143-300, property address 1100 Templeton Avenue. The 2025 assessed value based on FL1 2023 is $10,624,000. Page 2 have the aerial photograph and the photograph of the subject property. Moving on to page 5, I have the income approach that was used to assess the subject property. The subject property has a total leasable area of 48,944 square feet with a potential rent of $738,188. The blended table rate used for assessing for income approach was $15.08. We applied a vacancy loss of 2%, an expense rate of 3%, and a shortfall of $6 per square feet, which brings the net operating income at $695,848. We applied an overall cap rate of 6.55%, which brings the total value for the subject property at $10,624,000. Now, looking at my rent comparables on page 4, I have 4 rent comparables. Since the size of the subject property is 48,944, I wasn't able to find something of that big size. So the biggest square feet size for my comparable would be comparable number 3, which is 8,887 square feet with a the net rent of $22. And all other comparables have a net rent between $16 to $31.85. The mean rent for my rent comparables is $22.71, and a median is $21.50. All of these are vehicle service garages with an actual year build between 1967 to 1998, and the leases are between 2021 and 2022. So these are the current leases. Moving forward to pages 9 to 19 to 23, I have the income and expense measures, and from pages 24 to 27. Oh, sorry. Page 29, I have the photographs for my comparables. So to conclude, I would ask the board to confirm 2025 assessed value for $10,624,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, questions?
Yes, just a few, thank you. And as you already mentioned, Abhishek, it's difficult, obviously, to find 48,000 square foot lease comparables for the subject, correct?
That's good.
Yeah. So, and I have the same issue. Obviously, it is a challenge. I did look at your rent comparables on page number 4. So the subject property is located on Templeton, which is on the very north end of McPhillips, so north of Leela, west of McPhillips, essentially, correct?
That's good.
Okay, and none of these would be in that immediate area. The closest 1064 McPhillips would be on South McPhillips, correct?
That's good.
Okay. And your comparables numbers 2 and 3, Vermilion and Lakewood, those are in the Southdale Shopping Center, which is anchored with Canadian Tire, Co-op Grocery, Shoppers, Manitoba Liquor Commission, I believe.
Yes, that's good.
Okay. And I don't want to, the last one, is it fair to say that it's about 3% of the size of the subject?
That's correct.
Okay, and again, I grant you the difficulty in finding lease comps of a similar size. The city's aware this is a collision center?
That's good, yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Whitbread, questions for the assessor?
Yes. Excuse me. I'm trying to sort of understand the nature of the business here. I'm just going to go back to your photos. Bear with me. So I'm looking at your page 2, and this is quite a sizable property, obviously. I think the plan is the ratio is 8.45, but I see a budget, I see a Gautier, I see something else, maybe collision. Is this a full service automobile dealership selling new and used cars as well as servicing?
I'm unsure whether they are selling or not, but I'm sure that the budget is for like renting out the cars and the collision, and there's a collision center. But I can't be sure whether they are selling used vehicles or not, or new or used vehicles or not.
And do you know if it's a service garage?
Yes, they are, it's a collision center for sure.
No, I understand the collision center. I treat that differently than what I treat a service auto repair. I can go and get my oil changed. I can get my transmission changed. Do you know that?
No, I'm unsure about that, whether
Okay.
they do the service garage as well.
Mr. Smith may be able to help us when he gives this evidence. Now I'm trying to, again, understand the financials because your numbers don't seem to jive very well with the financials. If I can take you down to, bear with me as I get to them. So you say 48,944 square feet is leased. They say 23,000 square feet is leased, but 65% of it is vacant.
This is the income and expense meter that was sent of another property. And that is why we were asking for a non-cooperation. So my brief doesn't have an actual income and expense meter for this subject property.
So this brief says 2536 McPhillips Street, so it is incorrect.
That is incorrect. That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why you, just out of curiosity, why did you put it in the evidence?
Because we didn't know about that they actually submitted a income and expense meter for this property till today morning, I should say.
So you didn't actually get financials for this property?
Though they have been uploaded in our system, but I guess there was some kind of error and all of their properties owned by like Grand Joy Sales and Leasing have the same brief for all of their properties throughout Winnipeg.
Okay, so all of this information is irrelevant then,
That's good.
relating to the, okay, so. And my apologies, I did not see that on the top of the financial statements. I just expected it would be for the property. Okay. Well, that just blows all my questions out of the water. Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread.
You're welcome.
Ms. Verhan?
Well, mine too, but I'll wait for the applicant's information, but I'm good for now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, and thank you, Abhishek, for explaining that. So, Randjoy did submit all of their income and expense questionnaires for all of their properties. Something I'm assuming happened internally, and when we went in to download their income and expense, only the 2536 McPhillips was showing up online, but they were all submitted. They were found internally by another assessor previously, but that information hasn't passed on. And we did, of course, get the information directly from the client as well to confirm that they did submit that information. So in our brief at the back in the addenda, you can see the income and expense form for 1100 Templeton that was submitted and the date that it was submitted on and all of that detail. So that is there for you. That's just a bit of background for you. So the subject property is a collision center. It is the Jim Gauthier collision center constructed in 2018. It's not a service garage, so you can't get your oil changed there or anything of that nature. It is a collision center. They don't sell vehicles out of the lot. They may internally allow them to store some vehicles for sale or something, as I think you have Jim Gauthier Kia paying Jim Goche Collision $1,500 a month to store some vehicles because they needed additional space, right? That's not obviously internal and not a revenue stream. They do have a budget rent-a-car, which they run themselves, obviously, so that is again an internal rent that you're looking at there. And the very vast majority of the property is the collision center. The only reason the budget rent-a-car is there is that when you take your car in for collision repair, it's going to be there for some time and you need a vehicle. So they then, of course, rent you one in the short term is the reason for that operation being there. So that's the background. If we jump forward to my page number 3, you can see some data on the property. 2023 assessment reduced from 10,650,000 to just over 7 million. 2025 assessment came down slightly from that initial 2023 assessment to 10,624,000. Our final market value is $7,165,000. The remainder of the information there, the zoning of the property, the age, site area, leasable area, and land to plan area ratio. So photos begin on page number 4. I'm not sure why the internal ones didn't make it in this. I don't necessarily put each and every brief together myself with regard to the photos or have time to review them. I have been through the property. We have taken photos of it. I'm familiar with it, but for whatever reason, we just have the exteriors here. The site is shown on page number 6. And the location, more importantly, on page number 7. So you can see the location of Wheeler and McPhillips, right about where the word West Kildonan is shown there. And you head north from there and then west along Templeton to where the subject is located. It's located here because the Goches owned the had that land, and it's located in behind one of their dealerships. So that's why the location is what it is. That being said, it's not on a major thoroughfare. It's significantly set back from McPhillips, not really any visibility from there. And then when you get to that section of McPhillips, it's a couple of auto dealers, and then you're into farmland, essentially. Just beyond that, I think there's a City of Winnipeg Works Department property, and very little beyond that. There is one retail mall located on the east side, which has a Shapes in it and things of that nature, but that is about it in terms of the development there. Going to the north. So let's flip forward. I have the same issue that the city does, of course, in finding comps that would be this size. Typically, they are all owner occupied, so you're not going to have 48,000 square foot comps. That being said, we do need to look at what the market has to say. So I have 2 at the top of my brief there that are of a larger size. 120 King Edward. This is Boyd Auto location, also collision, 15,000+ square feet, 2018 lease at a rate of $8.50 a square foot, carrying through the valuation date as it's a term of 5 years. Now that's on Route, what is it? Route 90, King Edward, obviously, just to the west of Polo Park there. As you head southbound, I believe it is. Then we have 1870 King Edward, a little bit larger, just under 18,000 square feet. This is automotive repair, 2019 lease at $10.15 a square foot. And that is much further north. and a little bit more peripheral certainly than the 120 King Edward, so more in tune with the subject in that way. But so they're at 1015. Pardon me. The other ones of any size, well, obviously there's 123 Fort, number 9, which I've already explained why it's $13 per square foot. We have 231 Oak Point, which is number 11, 14,500 square feet. This is a former Harley Davidson dealership on Oak Point Highway, which is, of course, the extension of Route 90 there. Built in 1990, 2017 lease for 5 years. At $7 per square foot. Now, that is a used car dealership lease rate, and of course, it's informed by the location of it as well. Beyond that, number 16, 2554 Portage Avenue. This is the going back in time, it's where Mercedes was located forever at the foot of the bridge of Moray Street Bridge. So just under 23,000 square feet, a little bit older, obviously, 2015 lease for 5 years at $7.50 per square foot. Now that was an arm's length lease from property owner to Birchwood Finance. They were doing used auto sales on that site at that time. Then finally, we have 1322 Waverly, which is the not auto location on southeast corner of Waverly and McGilvery. Excellent location. 27,603 square feet, 2018 lease for 5 years at $685. So you'll say, well, that's quite low for that location and what they do. It is. The tenant was required to put their own money into building the front of the space out as well as the rear of the space out for their tenant requirements. So $685, I will acknowledge, is on the low side, and it would be somewhat higher than that based on what the tenant put into the space. We have some, again, photos and locations for you of various ones, not necessarily the ones I just described, but when we look at the ones that I was talking about there, 850, 1015, 750, 685. Now, obviously, these are smaller, certainly some of them, but they are more comparable in terms of the lease size, the leasable area to the subject, and in some locations closer in terms of peripheral nature to the city. I have taken into account the
Excuse me, Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Whitbread?
Madam Chair, could I ask for a 5-minute recess, please?
Certainly.
Personal issue.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Smith.
No, that's quite all right.
apologize for that, Mr. Smith. We'll pick up as soon as we can. Thank you. I'd like to call our meeting back to order. Mr. Smith, you were in the process of reviewing your comparables on page 10 of your brief. Did you want to maybe give us a little recap so we're back on track?
Sure. So we ran through the lease comparables there for you. I did point out the ones that would be more comparable in terms of size, location, etc. And essentially we were looking at about 4 or 5 of them. Obviously, economies of scale come into play between properties. So if you have a lease of 8,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet versus 48,000 square feet, there's going to be a very direct impact on what one would pay in the marketplace for the larger space. While our the lease comps are as comparable as we can provide. Obviously, there would be somewhat of an impact with regard to lease rate. That being said, it is a new property, and we have taken that into account as well as the fact that they are operating automotive rental Hertz location, I think, out of a very small portion of that building. So if you look on page 16, we've applied a rental rate of $11.50 per square foot, which is certainly towards the upper end of our comparables. And when you take into account again the size of the property, I think that's more than adequate to reflect what one would pay on the marketplace for it. Similarly, on the to our prior properties, on the expense side, we have assigned a vacancy rate of 4% for the same reasons. The same information is there with regard to why we've utilized that rate. The same market statistics, as well as the expense allowance and shortfall remaining the same. Again, similarly, our cap rate study is the same. We are looking at the same retail capitalization rates with regard to the subject. And all of that same data is there. I'm not going to run you through repeating each of those details for you. It is important, of course, to keep in mind the significant rise in interest rates and mortgage lending rates as of the valuation date and the direct impact that would have on cap rates as of that time frame. So we have used a cap rate for the subject of 7%. And this is summarized on our page 22, where we have our market value valuation alongside the city's 2025 and 2023 valuation. So $11.50 with our other parameters, including the 7% capitalization rate, comes to $7,165,000, which lines up, in fact, very well with the reduction in 2023 and the city's valuation of the property from those two cycles as well. The income and expense is included in the addenda, and that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Rattan, questions for Mr. Smith?
No, I do not have any.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Werhan?
None, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Just looking at two things, well, one item, but two pages. I'm going to take you back to your overview photograph. Bear with me while I find it. Okay, I'm on your page 6. And at the same time, I'm looking at the overview photograph from the assessor on his page 2. Just tell me when you've got those.
Page 2. Yeah.
So, a little bit puzzled that looking at well over 100 vehicles on this lot, maybe 200 vehicles on this lot, would say to me that could there be sales happening here?
No, there are no sales happening there. Absolutely no transit. They're not selling vehicles at all on this property.
So we're a city full of terrible drivers who need their vehicles repaired. Wow. Okay, I accept your comment. It just seemed very odd to me to see that many vehicles on both photographs, but fine. If you tell me there are no sales, I'll take that. I have no other questions.
Thank you very much. And I have no questions either. So that will conclude item number 8. And we have now heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. So thank you very much, Mr. Rattan and Mr. Smith.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Have a great day. Yeah.
You too.